Shabbat Shalom. This week's Torah portion is Ve'et Hanan, and it begins in Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23, with Moses recalling the prayer that he prayed to God, and I will read these for a few verses. And I beseech the Eternal at that time, saying, O Eternal God, you have begun to show your servant your greatness and your strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth that can do according to your works and according to your might? I pray to you, let me pass over and see the good land that is on the other side of the Jordan, the goodly mountain and Lebanon. But God was incensed against me for your sakes and would not hear me. And God said to me, let it suffice you, continue not to speak to me of this thing. Moses is praying, beseeching, pleading with God to reverse that decree and to allow him to enter the land of Israel. God responds, of course, with no. He does not agree. He does not agree to change his mind. He asks him never to speak to him again about this. But then he does tell him, go up to the top of the mountain, and from there he will be able to see the land that he will not be able to cross. And in the next verse, in verse 28, God says, command Joshua, for he will pass before the nation, and he will help them inherit the land. Now, a very, very similar story is told to us, something we even discussed a couple of weeks ago, in Numbers chapter 27. Here, the story is actually told very similarly, and yet with a few differences. According to the story in Numbers, God first speaks to Moses and tells him to go up to the mountain, and from there he will be able to see the land of Israel, and afterwards he will pass away. And immediately following that statement of God, Moses then expresses his concern that there be an heir, another leader who will then actually lead the nation into the land of Israel. And in response to this request of Moses, God then commands Moses to appoint Joshua as the leader. In the story as we have it here in Deuteronomy, things happen a little differently. Here we have Moses beginning with a prayer to allow him to go into the land. God's response that says, go up to the mountain and view the land, followed by the appointment of Joshua, without any request in Deuteronomy on Moses' part that there be a leader, that Joshua be, or that somebody be appointed to be the leader. I think it is very easy to reconcile these two stories. Probably the way the actual thing happened is a combination of the two stories. That Moses first prayed to God, let me go into the land. God then says, no, but you can go up into the mountain. Moses then prayed to God and says, but who will be the next leader? And God says, Joshua. Why then the difference? And I think the difference comes from the fact that in the book of Numbers, it is a narrative. This is the story that is being told from an objective point of view. It is as God dictates the story to Moses, and he's writing it down. Whereas in Deuteronomy, what we have is Moses retelling the story with the express purpose of giving a message to the children of Israel. The entire book of Deuteronomy is a series of 4 main speeches that are given by Moses to the children of Israel in the last few weeks before he passes away. And I think, therefore, what we're seeing in the story in our weekly portion today here in Deuteronomy is 2 very important things that Moses is communicating to the children of Israel through the emphasis of the story in the way he's presenting it here. The first, of course, is his prayer. And I think we learn a great deal about how to pray by hearing this prayer fleshed out for us here. Moses first praises God, talks about he is great, there is no God like God, how strong and how powerful he is, and then he makes his request. We are also learning from this what God's response is. In other words, God listens to the prayer, and then he says no. He says no, and don't ask again. And I think Moses, in repeating this, is telling us a very important lesson about prayer. We need to pray. We need to recognize who it is we're praying to. We're praying to God. We're not asking our neighbor or our parents for something. God is a completely different ballgame. But the fact that he talks about the prayer and the fact that God refused him, but yet includes the story here, I believe Moses is saying, pray, that doesn't mean God will listen. And even if God doesn't listen, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have prayed. It is a dialogue. God will make his own decisions whether to respond to your prayer or not, and how to respond. But prayer is very, very important. And I think that's why Moses makes a point of actually saying what it is he prayed and what God answered. The next part, though, is the fact that what Moses is actually saying, what he prayed about, and I think maybe this is even more important, Moses is communicating to the children of Israel that it was so important for him to enter the land of Israel, that even though God had punished him, had made it very clear that Moses was not going to go in, Moses risked the wrath of God to ask one more time, because it was so important to him. And I think in repeating this conversation to the children of Israel just before their entry to the land of Israel, Moses is saying, the land of Israel, my love for the land of Israel, is something I'm trying to communicate to you. You are privileged to go into a land that I want so much to enter, and I'm not able to. Please, children of Israel, receive my love for the land. Absorb it, because this is a love that you need to absorb and take with you as you enter into the land of Israel. In just a very, very few verses here, we are able to absorb and understand two central messages that Moses felt he needed to communicate not only to that generation, but to us as well. The power and importance of prayer, and the importance and the love for the land of Israel. Shabbat Shalom, from the center of the land of Israel, from Samaria.